Hey, good afternoon. I'm Tina Purnat, infodemic management team lead at the WHO Health Emergencies Program. Today, I'll discuss prebunking and debunking in context of an infodemic management strategy. These are based on our experience over the last few years and on evidence-based practice. We live in a noisy information environment, and this is especially true during emergencies. Generally speaking, misinformation only takes about 5 to 20% of a larger conversation about a health topic. An infodemic is made up of questions people are asking, concerns people are expressing, and information that people are searching for but they can't find, which are information voids. If these are not met, then misinformation and disinformation takes hold because people's attention turns to alternative sources of information. Now, this is a table from an evidence gap mapping review that WHO has conducted to understand what infodemic management strategies have been tried during COVID-19 pandemic. And as you can see, there are many types of strategies and interventions. Prebunking and debunking are two of those strategies. Now, prebunking is a method of exposing someone to a piece of misinformation by signposting that it is misinformation or providing factual information about a particular health topic. Prebunking only works before a piece of misinformation is widespread, just like a vaccine only works well if you haven't gotten infected yet. When you're deciding when to prebunk or debunk, you should follow a systematic approach, as illustrated in this decision tree. Now, there are 5 different ways of prebunking, from something as simple as factual explanations to warning someone that they may see a piece of misinformation, to exposing people to misinformation and explaining why it's wrong, and also building their skills up to identify misleading claims and media manipulation techniques. Prebunking gives you cognitive resistance against multiple types of misinformation. Now, really no one wants to feel that they've been fooled. So when you highlight a misleading claim, you should highlight the tactic used that makes this misinformation so compelling. Unmasking techniques for why a piece of misinformation is compelling then helps to understand what potential arguments the audience may see in the future that are both compelling and misleading. Now, prebunking is more complex because it doesn't only fact-check a claim, it also reveals the manipulation technique that is used to promote the false claim. Here, on this slide, you can see a taxonomy of science denialism arguments that are commonly used to manipulate people. And now, what do you need to have in place to successfully prebunk? If you want to socially inoculate someone against misinformation they haven't been exposed to, this assumes that misinformation isn't already widespread. Prebunking also requires knowledge of the misinformation as it is emerging. It also requires that you've identified factual arguments against the misinformation, and that assumes that fact-based arguments work for this particular audience. And it also assumes that you've identified the population that has not yet received the misinformation. Prebunking is difficult if you aren't conducting social listening and infodemic insights analysis to identify misinformation narratives as they emerge before they become widespread. You need some evidence base that helps you detect these narratives. Now, understanding the reasons why people share a piece of misinformation can help you determine whether a prebunk or debunk would be effective for them. And notice the types of values that motivate misinformation sharing by each of these archetypes. Not all of them will be amenable to fact that is shared in a prebunk or debunk. Now, the medium is just as important as the message, if not more, in how people receive and trust information. Prebunks and debunks, if you want them to be effective, they need to be delivered by people or organizations that are seen as credible and trustworthy. And this means that sometimes media and fact-checking organizations are not the most trusted or seen as the most credible by communities. At the same time, sometimes the health authority or government does not trust media or fact-checking organizations or share information needed to create debunks. So not all information narratives have the characteristic that would allow for health claims to be fact-checked. And when you take all of this together, it becomes much more complex to do prebunking. If a piece of misinformation that appeals to a community's values and this misinformation is also not easily fact-checked and it gains widespread traction, then trying to respond to that misinformation narrative with facts is unlikely to be effective. So basically, both prebunking and debunking alone cannot ensure a healthy information environment. We need to have other interventions that we need to consider, which is also a part of the infodemic management strategies that I showed you earlier. Now, in emergencies, people will look for the health authority for guidance, and they expect rapid and accurate health information to be shared, especially as the emergency evolves. But not all communities trust health authorities or have access to health information from them. They may place more trust or have more access to other sources, such as community leaders and online social networks or the media. So instead of being a fact checker itself, the health authority could partner with fact checking and media networks that can help fact check and correct health misinformation, while health authority improves the access to health information by several of these actions that I'm showing here. So a health authority could ensure that there are web pages available and they are up to date that fact checkers can link to with their debunks. A health authority could also make infodemic insights available for fact checkers and journalists so that this could support and guide their fact checking efforts. A health authority could also provide material and information on latest scientific evidence or updated FAQs and explainers for complex health topics. Also really important, a health authority could appoint a focal point to be available to fact checkers and journalists so that they can easily contact them whenever they have a question and they need to rapidly fact check and debunk a particular health claim. And a health authority could also provide rationale and explain why guidance is changing and also timestamp or somehow otherwise flag outdated materials when new guidance is posted. Now, on the flip side, fact checkers and media can also support public health, especially in emergencies, by doing the following. So they can link themselves to health authority or professional associations or other credible sources, web pages, so that readers of the debunk and prebunks can find information more easily when they read the pre or debunks. Fact checkers and media could also reference infodemic insights reports that are available so that they can learn from them and that can help detect emerging misinformation trends and communities that are amenable for prebunks or debunks. Fact checkers and media could also provide simplified social media friendly explainers and graphics. So they can facilitate understanding of more complex scientific concepts that a prebunk or debunk is addressing. Fact checkers and media can also make partnerships with health authorities and health professional associations and share with them fact checks in any reports that they've developed, so that health authorities can take action and address information voids. And also, which is a bit unusual for fact checking, but when it comes to health related claims, it's actually important that fact checkers and media also update fact checks and prebunks when narratives evolve. And this is for one specific reason related to health claims. Health science evolves and changes what is known at any one time about a particular health issue. Now, this makes it really important to update fact checks and prebunks. And in comparison to, for example, other claims or claim verification that may be done in prebunking or debunking elections or environmental claims, those are fairly simple. The facts of a particular claim are very easily determined, much more easily determined. But when health science, for example, is evolving, especially during emergency, what is known and what is not known, and what the current knowledge or consensus, scientific consensus is, changes. This also means that fact-checking health claims is a lot more complex, and it also changes over time. And this is also something that needs to be taken into account by fact checkers and media that are verifying or prebunking health claims. So what I just discussed is just a really tip of the iceberg. We have a lot more content and tools for you that WHO and partners have developed and co-produced over the last couple of years. They're also coming to you in the form of more courses on OpenWHO over the next couple of months. So I encourage you to look out for them if you're interested. But in the meantime, I do encourage you to also subscribe to the WHO Infodemic Management Newsflash, because a lot of these concepts, tips, and tools that are useful for infodemic managers and people working in health misinformation are published there, along with other assortment of upcoming events, possible jobs, academic research opportunities of interest, calls for papers and abstracts, and the current selection of recent papers and reports to note in this area. So I encourage you to subscribe. There's also an archive of past issues on our website, and welcome to join us in our community. Thank you very much.